Going to discuss about two important aspects of the same chapter 4a. First one is the mechanism of hormone action, and second one is hormonal disorders due to hyposecretion and hypersecretion. Before going into the details of the mechanism of hormone action, let us discuss some important aspects of hormones. We all know that hormones are biochemical integrators and they perform various physiological and biochemical activities, and they try to achieve important task that is called the homeostasis. And these are biochemical integrators. These are non-nutrients and intercellular messengers, and these are produced in very trace amounts. Trace amounts means very low concentration, and these are small molecules, very small molecules, and they show their influence even in very low concentrations. They need not be of high concentrations, but even very low concentrations they can be very effective, or they can show their physiological or biochemical activity, and they are highly specific. Means they show the impact or influence on a particular type of cells only. For example, the hormone ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, influences only the cortex region of the adrenal. No other cells are influenced by this particular hormone, whereas some are general. So that means these hormones will have influence on every cell of the body. For example, thyroxine. Thyroxine show on all the cells of the body, and these are degraded by the cells after their influence, and they are excreted by bile as well as by the kidney also. And another important function or characteristic of hormone is that they are produced and their influence on target cells which are far away from the place of their origin. That means they are produced at a particular tissue or a gland, and their impact, that is on target cells which are located far away from their source of production. That means these are transported by the circulatory system. And another important factor of the hormones is that they will either stimulate or they will inhibit the physiological activity and the biochemical activity in the cells. So these are some of the important aspects of the hormones, and some hormones are water soluble, or we can say these are hydrophilic, and some hormones are lipid soluble. So this must be remembered because the mechanism of hormone action is different in both the water soluble hormones as well as lipid soluble hormones. And most important factor that must be remembered in case of water soluble hormones is that during this hormone action, the hormones do not enter into the cell. they do not enter into the cell, but their impact or influenced is carried into the cell by some cascading reactions. And these cascading reactions are because of the formation of second messenger. Whereas in case of lipid soluble hormones, they can enter into the cell and directly influence the DNA and mRNA and protein synthesis. So, the mechanism of action is different for both the water soluble as well as the lipid soluble hormones, and let us see how this hormonal action takes place in first the water soluble hormones. So, the mechanism of action in water soluble hormones. You see, the hormone cannot enter into the cell because the cell membrane is a lipid membrane. So, they cannot enter into the cell. So, the hormones released from the tissues will combine with certain receptors in the plasma membrane, or you can say that these are membrane bound receptors. So, for example, hormone is released here and it reaches the cell, and the receptors which are membrane bound, the hormone attaches with the receptor and it forms the hormone receptor complex. So, this hormone receptor complex is very, very important because it initiates certain changes in the cellular and which causes or which leads to the formation of second messenger. And the second messenger, generally examples of the second messenger is adenylyl cyclase, or it is also called adenylate cyclase. So, this is called second messenger. And another example for second messengers are IP3, inositol phosphate, and calcium ions also in some cases acts as second messenger. Now, the first messenger is the hormone itself. So, this hormone and receptor complex initiates certain changes in the cellular body, which leads to the formation of second messenger. The examples of the second messenger are adenylyl cyclase or adenylate cyclase, the IP3, inositol phosphate, and calcium ions. And this second messenger is important because it can initiate certain cascading reactions in the cell. These cascading reactions in each step will have multiplier effect. That means even this hormone is released in a very low concentration. Because of this multiplier effect of the cascading reactions, the influence of the hormone is almost multiplied from 1 to 1 lakh times. That means even the low concentration, also the hormones are released in low concentration, but the effect will be almost multiplied at the rate of 1 lakh times. So, this is how the second messenger is important in multiplying the hormonal action. And let us see an example of epinephrine. Let us see how this epinephrine we know that it is a hormone released by the adrenal medulla, and it is related to fight or flight situations, which makes available the glucose in the cell. the liver, in the liver cells, the glycogen is converted into glucose because of the action of this epinephrine. For example, if you see, so this is the epinephrine hormone released from the adrenal medulla and it reaches the cell and it forms the HR complex, or we can say the hormone and receptor complex. This hormone receptor complex will initiate certain changes, and these changes are the G protein, which is a membrane bound, attaches to GTP. So, the attachment of G protein, which is also another membrane bound protein, to the GTP causes the changes in the second messengers are cyclic AMP. It is not adenylate cyclase, I am sorry, it is cyclic AMP, the inositol phosphate and calcium ions. So, adenylyl cyclase is the enzyme that facilitates the formation of cyclic AMP. So, adenylyl cyclase is the enzyme that facilitates the formation of cyclic AMP, which is called the second messenger. And cyclic AMP is formed from the ATP. So, ATP is converted into cyclic AMP because of the action of adenylyl cyclase. And this cyclic AMP, which is a second messenger, acts on protein kinase A, which is another enzyme. This protein kinase A will leads to certain chemical reactions called phosphorylase. Various phosphorylases are activated. This phosphorylase will convert the glycogen into glucose 6-phosphate. So, ultimately this glucose 6-phosphate leads to formation of glucose. So, this is how the various reactions in the cell is initiated by hormone without entering into the cell. So, let us sum up all the reactions once again. The hormone, once released from the gland, reaches the cell and attaches to the receptor, forming the hormone receptor complex. Hormone receptor complex initiates the another membrane bound protein called G protein, and this G protein attaches to the GTP, and attachment of GTP with G protein initiates or activates the another enzyme called adenylyl cyclase, and this adenylyl cyclase will initiate the formation of cyclic AMP from ATP. And cyclic AMP, as I have already told, is a second messenger, and some other second messengers are the IP3 or inositol phosphate and calcium ions. In here, the epinephrine case, the second messenger is cyclic AMP, and cyclic AMP will initiate various cascading reactions, and these are cascading reactions which ultimately leads to the activation of protein kinase, and protein kinases will phosphorylase various reactions. Ultimately, the glycogen is converted into glucose 6-phosphate, and again this glucose 6-phosphate gives rise to glucose. And the impact of epinephrine is that making available the glucose in the cell to combat the stress conditions like fight or flight, or you can move away, run away from the situations, or you can fight against certain conditions. So this is how the the hormonal action in terms of water soluble hormones. The most important thing you have to remember is that hormones need not enter into the cell, which is a first messenger itself, but its impact is found inside the cell because of the second messengers by the cascading reactions and multiplier effect. So even though these cells are produced in low concentrations, their effect can be perceived in the cell. The lipid soluble hormones, they can enter into the cell and the receptor is called intracellular receptor. The receptors for these hormones are called the intracellular receptors. Generally these are found in nucleus. And these hormone, while combining with the receptor, forms hormone receptor complex, and this hormone receptor complex moves into the nucleus and attaches to the DNA. We know that from DNA mRNA is produced, and this process is called the transcription. And from mRNA proteins are produced with the help of ribosomes, which is called the translation. And this hormone receptor complex actually attaches the DNA and makes certain changes in the production of this mRNA, and ultimately these changes are made in proteins also. So the hormonal action is by attaching to the DNA and changes in the transcription so that it can have its impact while producing the proteins. It differs from the water soluble hormones mechanism, where it enters into the cell and the receptors are inside the cell, not membrane bound. In case of water soluble, they are membrane bound, and here these are intracellular, and the intracellular hormone receptor complex will change the transcription, and ultimately its impact can be perceived in the protein synthesis, and that's why it can change the hormone action. So this is how the lipid soluble hormone works, and let us take an example of aldosterone. Aldosterone is produced by the adrenal cortex region, and it is a mineralocorticoid. And let us see how it works. So this is the cell, and this is the nucleus. The hormone aldosterone enters into reaches the cell, and it enters into the cell because it has the capacity to enter into the cell, and it attaches with the hormone with the receptor, forming hormone receptor complex, and inside the cell there is a DNA, and this hormonal receptor complex enters into the nucleus through the nuclear pores, and it attaches with this DNA, and the mRNA is produced. This mRNA comes out of the nuclear membrane, and with the help of ribosomes, proteins are formed, and these proteins will have the impact of this hormone called aldosterone. So this is how the lipid soluble hormone works, and these receptors are called mobile receptors because they are inside the cell and they can move into the nucleus also. So this is called the mobile receptor mechanism. So this is the two ways in which the hormones, one is the water soluble hormone and second one is the lipid soluble hormones, will have its hormonal action. And second topic of this day is the hormonal disorders. Due to hypo and hypersecretion. So we know that the hormones are secreted, but if these are secreted in lower amounts, that is called the hyposecretion. And if these are produced or secreted in higher amounts, that is called hypersecretion. Because hormonal action is the integration of biochemical as well as physiological activities. So they integrate both biochemical as well as physiological activities in order to achieve the homeostasis. The hyposecretion as well as the hypersecretion leads to certain abnormalities. And let us see how different hormones in case of hyposecretion as well as hypersecretion leads to the disorders. The first one is growth hormone. We know that growth hormone is responsible for growth and repair as well as differentiation of the body. But if this is secreted in that is hypersecretion, that means in excess of amounts. In case of children, it leads to gigantism. Gigantism means the body increases in size and looks very huge when compared to the size of the or in compared to the age of the children. So size will be high, hence we call it as a gigantism. If this hypersecretion in case of adults leads to enlargement of bone, enlargement of jaws, fingers, nose, lips, all these leads to a look like gorilla like appearance. So the person who has hypersecretion of this growth hormone will look like a gorilla. So this is called acromegaly. If the hyposecretion, that means if it is secreted in lower amounts, it leads to, in case of adults, it leads to dwarfism, or they are called dwarfs or midgets. That means they show stunted growth, even though their age is higher, but their growth is very little. So they are called dwarfs or short people, very short people, or midgets. But remember, these are called pituitary dwarfs because the growth hormone is produced from the pituitary gland, and these are called pituitary dwarfs. And pituitary dwarfs are normal individual. That means even though their physical appearance is dwarf, their intellectual capacity as well as the other body functions are normal. So that is why these are called normal individuals in terms of physiological activities. So they can have children, they are normal in all respects, Their intellectual capacity is also normal. As only thing is that they are physically, they look short. Even they are called dwarfs. So this is all about the growth hormone. We know that thyroid gland is responsible for maintenance of basal metabolic rate in the body, and thyroid hypersecretion leads to a condition called exophthalmic goiter. Exophthalmic goiter is characterized by protruding of eyelids, eyeballs, eyes. That means the eyeballs will look or appear coming out of this eyes, and this is called exophthalmic goiter, or it is nothing but the eyes are look like coming out of the eyes, and hence it is called protruding of eyes. And second one is the simple goiter. Simple goiter is enlargement of goiter. Enlargement of thyroid gland. Thyroid gland, we know it is located near the neck, and due to this simple goiter, which is caused by deficiency of iodine in the food. So deficiency, iodine deficiency leads to the enlargement of thyroid gland, and we can see a bulge near the neck. So that is about the simple goiter. Second. And third one is hypothyroidism. That means if the thyroxine is produced in very low amounts or little amounts, especially during the pregnancy, it leads to deformities or underdevelopment of embryo. So the embryo, so during the pregnancy, if the woman encounters this hypothyroidism, that means the thyroxine is released in very low amounts, it leads to deformities in the embryo, and it leads to stunted growth and mental retardedness. Stunted growth and mental retardedness leads to lack of IQ, and this is called cretinism. Cretinism means congenital hypothyroidism. Congenital hypothyroidism. That means the thyroxine is released in very low amounts from the birth itself. So it leads to low IQ levels, mental retardedness or stunted growth, and abnormal skin. Skin will be abnormal, and it also leads to deafness or mute. So all these are characteristics of this cretinism. Next, fourth one is hypothyroidism in adults. So cretinism is related to the children, that is during the pregnancy. If the hypothyroidism is encountered by the mother, it leads to mental retardedness, stunted growth, low level of IQ, abnormal skin, deafness and mute. But if this hypothyroidism is, if it is in adults, it leads to a disease called myxedema. Myxedema. Myxedema is characterized by lethargy, weakness, puffness of the puffness of the face, and mental impairment can also be seen. And we can see a dry skin is dry, and loss of weight. All these are related to the disease called myxedema, which is due to the hypothyroidism. That means thyroxine is released in very low amounts. So let us see the lethargy, that means weakness or loss of weight, and puffness of the skin, mental impairment, and puffness of the face, and dryness of the skin. All these are related to the hypothyroidism, which we call it as a myxedema. And fifth one is, in case of women, this hypothyroidism leads to irregular menstrual cycles. So menstrual cycle is disturbed. In case of women with hypothyroidism. So this is all about the hyperthyroidism, that means thyroxine, which is the hormone of thyroid gland. If it is hypersecreted, it leads to exophthalmic goiter, that is the protruding nature of the eyeballs. And second one is due to the lack of iodine, it leads to enlargement of thyroid gland, which we call it as a simple goiter. In case of hypothyroidism during the pregnancy, it leads to the cretinism. Cretinism is characterized by low IQ, stunted growth, mental retardedness, abnormal skin, deafness, and muteness also. And hypothyroidism in case of adults leads to myxedema. Myxedema is characterized by lethargy, puffness of the face, mental impairment, dry skin, and loss of weight. And menstrual cycle would be irregular in case of women with hypothyroidism. So next we shall see parathyroid gland. We know that the parathyroid gland is responsible for elevation of calcium ions concentration in the body. So the hypersecretion of parathormone leads to a condition called hypercalcemia. That means the calcium ion concentration in the blood increases, and it leads to a condition called osteoporosis. Osteoporosis means the bones become brittle and they will fracture at very frequent times. So next one is, and it also leads to the formation of stones in the kidney also. So these are the two impacts of hypersecretion. And hyposecretion of parathormone leads to a condition called tetany. That means the calcium levels would be low in the blood. Due to lack of calcium, the muscles contract continuously. So without any break, the muscles are always in contract position, and that we call it as a tetany. So this is all about the parathyroid gland, hypersecretion and hyposecretion. Insulin converts the glucose into glycogen. Due to hyposecretion of insulin, that means the insulin is produced in a very low amounts. It leads to a condition called the levels of glucose in the blood increases, and it is called the hyperglycemic condition or hyperglycemia. That means the levels of glucose is high in the blood. And continuous hyperglycemia leads to a disease called diabetes mellitus. So diabetes mellitus is characterized by glycosuria. Glycosuria means the glucose is secreted. Glucose is excreted through urine, and more water is also released through this urine. Glycosuria means glucose in the urine, and water is also released or excreted through this urine. So this condition is called diabetes mellitus. And hypersecretion of this insulin leads to conversion of entire glucose into glycogen, where the glucose levels in the body would be reduced, and it is known as insulin shock. That means no amount of glucose is available for the body to continue its functions, hence it is called insulin shock, and person due to lack of energy or due to lack of energy resource may go into a condition called coma. So this is about the hypersecretion and hyposecretion. Vasopressin. Vasopressin, also known as antidiuretic hormone. We know it is a hormone produced from the posterior pituitary gland, and it is concerned with the reabsorption of water, and deficiency of ADH leads to excretion of water in large volumes, because the reabsorption of water does not take place. So reabsorption of water never takes place due to the deficiency. Hence, more amount of water is excreted through this urine, and this condition is called diabetes insipidus. Diabetes insipidus is different from diabetes mellitus. In diabetes mellitus, both glucose as well as water are excreted. In case of diabetes insipidus, only urine is excreted, no glucose. Diabetes mellitus, where the urine tastes the sugar, that is glucose. But in case of diabetes insipidus, insipidus means tasteless or no taste. Tasteless means no glucose is present. So that is the importance of lack of ADH in the body, leads to diabetes insipidus. Addison's disease is characterized by hyposecretion of glucocorticoids. We know the glucocorticoids are secreted from the adrenal cortex, and these are responsible for carbohydrate metabolism. Hyposecretion means that is these are secreted in very low amounts. Hyposecretion leads to loss of weight, pigmentation of skin, and no response or low response to the stress, and skin shows dryness and weakness is also associated with this hypersecretion of the Addison's disease. So these are some of the characters of Addison's disease. Next one is Cushing syndrome. Cushing syndrome is due to the hypersecretion of glucocorticoids. It is concerned with the gain of weight, contrast to the loss of weight in case of Addison's disease, gain of weight, breakdown of muscle proteins and fats, and these are broken down and these are redistributed, and it leads to spindle shaped legs and arms. And not only that, the face is moon shaped due to enlargement. It is moon shaped, and on the back side there is a buffalo hump due to deposition of these fats, and abdomen shows pendulous. That means it moves due to the excessive, all these are due to the deposition of fats. That means face is moon shaped and back is having a buffalo like hump, and abdomen shows pendulous, and it is also concerned with lethargic. That means weakness. And because of this hypersecretion, hyperglycemia can also be found. Hyperglycemia, that means glucose levels are at higher levels. So these are some of the disorders of hormones in our second year zoology syllabus. Thank you very much.